Great, and welcome to the show, Nando Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. How's your day been so far?
It's been amazing. It's a gloomy LA Saturday, but it's all good. It's all good.
Right. Well, we have, we've been experiencing some snow here in
Uh-huh.
Brooklyn, and
Okay.
there's no snow today, but it is freezing.
Oh
So
God.
I went out for an earlier walk with my husband and my puppy, and
Oh,
she's worn out. So like we're not stepping outside of the house at all today. So we're good
I
to go.
don't blame you. And it's the LA version of freezing out here. I think it's like mid 60s or something like
Oh,
that.
is it? Okay, got it. Yeah. Let
Yeah,
me let me just check what it is right now.
that's LA freezing.
It is 28 degrees right now in New York City, and it feels like 19. Okay,
Oh
so
God.
I wouldn't even I don't even want to hear about your LA freezing.
I know. I love to post that sometimes just to mess with people. It's so great. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's so cold. It's like 65 degrees outside. Like, oh, we need our sweaters. I know. We're a
Yeah,
bunch of wusses over here, honestly.
no worries. It's all good. We're actually looking to make a move to LA, so we'll be
Oh,
there. Yeah, within a year. We're planning, right? So we're looking at a year or so. Yeah,
really?
yeah.
You're very LA. I can totally see you here.
You think so? I think I'm
Yes.
very Brooklyn, but
Everybody, I don't know. I still feel like you have some LA in you.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll
I,
trust you.
I feel it. I've been here for a long time, so I definitely I feel the LA coming out of you, and you get to take your dog everywhere. It's amazing. Like you'll love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And then you'll turn into a wuss just like the rest of us, and then you'll go back to Brooklyn, and you're like, oh my god, like it's freezing. Yeah, LA does that to people. It's all good.
Okay. All right.
It's part of it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited. I've been like following your content for a while now, so I've been really excited to get you on. So I'll just like dive right in. So I really love great success stories, and I find, so much, particularly with people like us, like who are in this line of work of helping people, personal development. They always have kind of like a backstory, for how they chose to go into this particular profession. So, what was that journey like for you?
Well, it wasn't a linear journey, right? Looking back.
Yeah.
So I was working in corporate America for quite a while, and I was working particularly in recruitment and advertising inside.
Okay.
I was working in HR recruitment for advertising media companies. And I thought I was doing a fantastic job, and I still think I was doing a fantastic job. What ended up happening was I was laid off from my job. My boss brought me into her office and was like, actually into a conference room, and was like, "Hey, we're laying you off," And I was like shocked because it's like, wait a minute, I'm 40. Like that doesn't happen to people once they hit
Yeah.
40. Like you only hear the career just keeps going and they keep going to the next level and executive and it was like, wait a minute. And so, but here's the funny thing. Half of me felt I was very conflicted because half of me was terrified. I'm also a
Yeah.
recovering drama queen. So I was
Okay.
like, oh my God, we're gonna be homeless. And
Right.
I need to call my husband and tell him to get a big cardboard box for me and the puppy and him to live in.
Right.
Right. Half of me was catastrophizing. It was horrible. OMG, my life. But the
Right.
other half was really quiet. The other half was relieved. There was a
Yeah.
relief there. And I couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand
Mm.
it. And so when I was let go, I went into a depression.
Okay.
And in that depression, there was all these stories of I was so busy collecting evidence throughout my life that was like, you're a loser, you're a failure, this is why you're
Yeah.
not successful. And so this last episode of you're being laid off, it
Right.
just added piled on top, right? It piled on
Yeah.
top. And what I was doing for the next couple of months was just kept going through the pile to just prove how not successful I am or how much of a failure I was. And this is what a lot of us do. When
Yeah.
we get knocked down instead of some of us, instead of getting back up, we actually like just comb through the evidence to say,
Right.
and we don't realize that what we're doing is in our mind, we don't realize that what we're doing is that we're actually making the situation even worse because
Yeah.
we're just, we're being judge and jury for ourselves, right? And so
Yeah.
what ended up happening was the depression was there, I was able to see a little bit of light, and
Yeah.
these I started taking all these transformational courses.
Okay.
I started taking all these, self-help developmental courses. I didn't do the books because I felt like the books weren't doing anything. I had to actually be like in a seminar or something, right?
Yes, that's smart.
Yeah. And then eventually I landed on a coach. I got a coach, and this coach at the end of, a certain amount of time was like, "Hey, Nando, do you realize that you're no longer depressed? You're actually
Mhm.
hopeful." And that was big for me because I still didn't have a job.
Right.
I
Oh,
still didn't have
yeah.
a job. So to be to be inspired and to have hope, yet there was no income, no money, still unemployed, was a
Right.
big deal for me, right?
Yeah.
And so when I looked at that, it was an 8-month journey from from being laid off and depressed to being like, oh, okay, all that happened was I was laid off. Okay, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right? So it took 8 months to uncollapse the story of laid off and failure. That's what it took
Right.
me, 8 months to uncollapse it. And once I was able to see it's two separate things, and
Yes.
and it's not that I was a failure. It's just I
Right.
just got laid off. It was like I got laid off and I'm unemployed. And
Right.
what you gonna do about it? So that was my journey, and my coach obviously by pushing me along, saying, "Hey, Nando, you know not for anything, but like you really got a good handle on these lessons, on these things that
Yeah.
took you from depressed to aha. So
Mhm.
have you thought about being a coach yourself?" And I was like, "No, I didn't think about that." And I wasn't interested in it either. I didn't want to
Yeah.
hear about people's problems. I didn't want to
Right.
no, I don't want to deal with people. And she just kept saying, "But like, just be with it. Just be with it." You know?
Yeah.
And then that's what got me curious about actually coaching people. And now, here I am 3 years later and focusing solely on entrepreneur women, helping them with imposter syndrome. So who would have known?
That's amazing. So I love how you name those things. I love how you name them so specifically too. So just kind of like loop everyone in, the subject we're talking about today is imposter syndrome. And I think that everybody suffered this on some level, like in some area of their life, whether it's relationship or family or career. And I remember the first time I ever heard it, I was like, oh, that's what my deal is. That's what I have to heal. Because when you name that so specifically as to, here's the evidence that supports my belief about myself, it's so true. And I've done that. I came from a family that was like a middle class family and, always had to work really hard for money. And that was my belief about myself of, okay, so here's more evidence that, kind of contributes to why I don't have enough and why I need more and all of that. So I love that. So, um, what are some of the main, kind of forms of how imposter syndrome manifests itself with the clients that you've talked to?
Yeah. So let me just backtrack just a little bit, right?
Okay.
So let me give your audience, let me give your peeps the
Yeah.
insider scoop, the exclusive on like what is imposter syndrome, right? I'll
Yes.
just give a little background. In 1978, two women researchers that were also psychologists, they did
Hmm.
research on 150 women in higher academia. And when the research came back, what they discovered was that all these women who were like super smart, super like two PhDs, masters, all of this, they all came back with the research saying, "I'm a fraud. I'm a fake. If people only really knew who I was, I wouldn't be in this position. They wouldn't have hired me. They wouldn't have allowed me into that second PhD program, right?
Right.
And so what they discovered was that's when imposter phenomenon was discovered by these two brilliant women. And
Yes.
so there's 4 character traits to experiencing imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Number 1 is that you feel all your success is due to luck. Like you got lucky. You lucked out. That's never going to happen to you again. You better be blessed, right?
Oh, wow.
Hashtag blessed. Yeah. The second trait is that you feel like a fake or an imposter. And if we forward, that was 1978, but if we forward it now to 2021, how that manifests is like there's a lot of people who want to do great things, that want to have a podcast, you know, that want to have a course or want to coach or want to do something out there. But who am I to do that? There's so many other people that are already doing it and they're doing it better and they're more successful. You know, why should I go? That's that second one, is like you feel like a fake, you feel like an imposter, you feel like you don't belong, you feel like you don't have a place at the table. That's trait number 2. Trait number 3 is because of the top 2 traits, we play small, we shrink down, we don't speak up, whether this is in meetings, whether this is right. So that one is you don't want to be recognized, you don't want accolades, you hide in the back, right? You never want the spotlight to shine on you, because why would you? You're a fake, you're an imposter, you don't know that much, you're not the expert, and all your success is due to luck, right? And then the fourth one is because of the 3 traits that you experience already, you get caught in a cycle of depression, high anxiety, and high stress. And that's the world of imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I love the first one that you said, because I've noticed that with myself, like definitely. And I've also noticed when I'm talking to other people, that's one of the things they said. And I said, well, you know, well, how are you able to accomplish this and that? Like, oh, well, you know, I just happened to like, you know, submit my resume at this exact time. And, you know, again, like that luck thing of just kind of like, it's stemming from this place of unworthiness. I can't, you know, and that's another thing too. I hear a lot of people, well, you know, if I win the lottery, then I'll do this. Okay, so what you're basically saying is the only way you could get money is by somehow like just like a strike of luck. And we don't realize like these are still like lower vibrational things, like when we're just depending on luck, because, you know, how often do you get lucky? A lot less than you be consistent, right?
Yeah, totally. And what ends up happening is we play small, and like you said, like I'll do it when I win the lottery, or I'll do it when, you know, if it's and then this is how imposter syndrome has its justify, right? It's like, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Right. And that's just not the case. Like you want to take action. You want to do that. You want to be in the rooms with the movers and the shakers. Listen, I was on Clubhouse earlier today, and I was in a room with all these millionaires and billionaires, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I just went in to listen. For whatever strange reason, they pulled me up to the stage, and I was like, okay, I don't know why they pulled me up to the stage, because I have nothing to contribute to the millionaire. And the title of the room was Successful Coaching for Millionaires and Billionaires, right?
Okay.
And so I said to myself, you know, although I might not have anything to offer in terms of, okay, this is what you do with your first million or first bill, I have a lot to offer when it comes to imposter syndrome. And I know for a fact that there's some people in this room, because here's the thing, 70% of people have experienced imposter syndrome at one point in their life or other.
Yes.
70%.
Yeah.
40% of people struggle with it on a daily basis.
Okay.
You get that? So if you're in a room and you look to in Clubhouse and you look to your left, you look to your right, look up, look down, someone's got imposter syndrome.
Right.
You know, someone's got it. So here I am in this room with millionaires and billionaires, and they call me up to the stage, and I'm like, okay, I've got my thing ready to say, and it's not on billionaires, it's about imposter syndrome, right? But 3 years ago, Nando would have, the moment they moved him into the speaking arena, would have left the room. because like I don't have anything to say. I don't belong here.
Okay.
Syndrome, right? So that's the second thing I want to say about imposter syndrome is that we experience it at a spectrum. There's levels to it.
Yeah.
Okay? So how I experience it will be very different than you, than somebody
Yes.
else, right? So there's an actual test online to see what level you test in. But I do want
Oh,
to say, yeah, and if your reader, sorry, not your readers, if your listeners go
yeah.
to my Instagram and they click on my link, they're going to see the Imposter Syndrome resource guide. You can get that for free. My team and
Okay.
I put that together, and it creates the whole world of imposter syndrome. And in that download, we link to the test, right? But I will
Yeah.
have to say this: depending on what you're experiencing that
Mhm.
week, that month, that
Right.
year, will depend on like where you rate, because you can
Yeah.
test again at a different time and it's at a different rate, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's really good. I love that. Oh gosh, I have to take that test now. I'm very curious to see where I rate.
Yeah. The last time I took it, listen, the last time I took it, I scored a 92. And I thought I was like, like I'm the expert. What do you mean I scored a 92? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yeah. And here's the thing with your listeners who are listening, and if they've got projects, or if they're working or they're hanging out with friends, right?
Yeah.
And their friends are talking about their wins and their successes, and they're like withholding, like I don't want to talk
Sure.
about, yeah, like they're feeling small up against their friends who are experiencing so
Mhm.
many wins. Just know that they might be experiencing it too, but they're overcompensating. Like everybody's dealing with their own little monster, the imposter syndrome
Yes.
monster. And the beautiful thing is, the more you talk about it, the
Yeah.
less it impacts you. Okay, so
Right.
that's the lesson I want everyone to get out of here. When you talk about it, the less heavy the burden feels. You don't feel so
Yeah.
alone.
Right. Yeah, because I think that it's so easy for people to kind of like hear things like this or and I'm writing a couple of books right now, but one of the examples that I talk about, not with imposter syndrome, but just in terms of personal development, is I knew this girl who read The Power of Now, and it got to the part where they were talking about the pain body. And she completely skipped the whole thing because she said, oh, well, that's for people who have had some type of violence or sexual trauma, or she completely dismissed it and had no idea that she had a pain body until like years later. And so that's why I like to really go into examples, because I love how you even named that one about how when you have people around you who are having all these wins, and you're just like, what the hell? Like, why am I not, why am I not having more wins? And
Yeah.
then that kind of, again, that's part of that cycle, right? That you talk about. So, so I made like a couple of different examples. Recently I had a guest on this show. It was like the Melvin Gaddy episode about the role of self-worth when it comes to communication.
Mhm.
And so it made me think of, different things. And I was just like, okay, I definitely want to go over these with Nando.
Yeah.
So again, I like to reference examples because again, I feel like people can go, oh, I don't have that, and then move on. But really, you actually, depending on where you rate. So we have two people. This is our scenario. We have two people talking, having, kind of butting heads, like having this disagreement. And then they kind of like take a break for a little while. And this can be like friends or romantic partners, whatever, family. And then they reconvene and say, and person A says, hey, I really wanted to talk to you about that whole like breakdown in communication there that we had. And person B is like, that's negative. I don't want to bring up the past. Like, and person A is saying, hey, I really fully, I want to get some clarity and get some understanding. And they're just kind of very dismissive of that. How is that an example of imposter syndrome? Like, what's really going on behind the scenes there?
I mean, without actually having the people come here and give me, and be able to ask different questions,
Sure.
it's difficult to like pinpoint. I'm
Sure.
not sure if that's imposter. I mean, it could be. I'm not sure if that's imposter syndrome or just one person just avoiding being if people are just avoiding being responsible for how they communicate, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a form of self-sabotage.
Yes.
When you avoid responsibility for what you said, and someone's like trying to like get you to like, listen, let's talk about this breakdown that occurred, and
Right.
one party's wanting to avoid, the other one wants to talk. Here's the thing: the reality is, nothing's going to move right then and there, because you can't force the person to
Right.
want to talk to you, right? So what there is to do is to let it go for the moment, and then when that person cools down, calms down, be able to come back and say, hey, is it okay if we talk about that thing that happened last Saturday now, right?
Right.
And they might be more open to do it when it's not so fresh. And I think that's something that we fail to do as humans, because we've heard this thing called closure, and
Yes.
we're all trying to get closure, and closure is
Yes.
completely made up. Closure doesn't exist. You're the only one that can give yourself closure. You're the only one. Nothing anyone says can provide you closure. It's because even if the person says the right words, you're still releasing that as like, oh, okay, you're accepting. You're the only one that can accept yes or no. So you're the
Yes.
creator of closure. You're the keeper of closure, right? And that's the
Ooh.
biggest misconception on the planet. Why did he break up with me? Why did I need closure? You can give yourself closure. You really, really
Yes.
can. You really can. Yeah.
I love that. I write about that. You name it differently than I do, but it's still basically, essentially the same message of, to kind of delegate the responsibility of your healing to another person
Oh,
doesn't,
I love how you put it. Yeah. Delegating the
yeah,
responsibility of your healing to someone else.
yeah,
Yeah. We don't
yeah.
do that. Yeah.
It just doesn't work. It just literally doesn't work. It's actually, and it sounds sucky, but it's actually your work. It's actually your
Absolutely.
work. Yeah. Ugh, I know. Okay, so here's my other example.
Okay.
Um, so we have two people kind of say they're accountability partners, right? They're accountability partners to make sure that they stay on track with like their new health routine. And person A is wavering, but person A actually acknowledges that, they're wavering with their health routine. And, then they kind of go to person B and say, hey, we were going to work out, or we were going to do this, like what's going on. And then even though person A and person B just both agreed on this thing, person B starts getting pissed off. What's at play here?
Well, what I would say is, and we do this a lot, right, as
Yeah.
humans, is we experience things at different levels, right? So let's say person A is like maybe a little bit overweight and is looking to shut off the weight. So looking to shut off the weight because it's connected to their self-worth, their self-value. They don't feel good about themselves. They think they're not worthy. And all of this is connected to the extra weight. So
Yeah.
when they go into a partnership with someone who says, hey, can we keep each other accountable to go to the gym? What they're bringing with them is a little extra significance, right? When the other person might be fit and trim and, and it's like, okay, I'll go with you, right? And that person might not bring all that commitment to it. So there's a couple of things at play, right? What's the
Okay.
commitment level for
Yeah.
each of the parties, but then also what's the role of each of the parties, right? So I would assert that person A is now made this person responsible, just like the closure thing. You're not responsible for my weight loss. You're not responsible for me to work out. You're not responsible for me, right? And so if
Yeah.
you say no, or if you say, I'm not going to do it today, there's a breakdown that occurs in that in person A, because now remember their self-worth, their self-value is tied into the weight, and
Yeah.
that they're so trying hard to lose. So what they're getting in their brain is this person doesn't care about me. And so that becomes that situation. And it's no longer even about the weight. It's no longer about the
Wow.
gym. It becomes, you don't care about me, but they don't even know that that's what's behind it. So it might come out as, something else, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, without having the two people here to actually ask questions,
Yeah.
but this is what I'm asserting is, and this is what happens in a lot of our partnerships. Now, remove the gym and put in a marriage or a relationship, and
Okay.
someone was supposed to go pick up the milk, and it didn't
Yeah.
happen, right?
Yeah.
So then it's the same scenario. It's not about the milk. It's about you're not being responsible. I feel like I'm the only one that cares about, the household running, da 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 da. So we humans make everything so complicated.
We
When
do.
in reality, if we could just be truly straight in our communication,
Yeah.
99% of our stuff would not occur.
I so agree with that. I so agree with that. Because, a lot of times we're just like, we're not honest with ourselves. And so someone else kind of recognizing that, observing that, naming that, we kind of see that as like a threat, and we're going like, why are you seeing me? It's like they don't want to even be seen, in that moment. It gets really awkward and it gets really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you and I had this conversation, when we first linked up to have this podcast, where you said it so brilliantly. It was like, we're not willing to take responsibility for our own stuff, and that's where it starts. Like when you start to when you flip that switch and realize that your healing, your weight loss, your advancement, your money, everything starts with you and your mindset, then you can actually start working on it. It's not the company didn't give me the raise because I didn't work for it, or he didn't propose because I wasn't good enough, or he wasn't it starts here. It starts.
It so does. It so does. So I'm going to move forward to another thing that I've been writing about.
Yep.
Because I keep hearing it so much. It's like the new kind of buzz phrase or something to say.
It's the new kale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new kale. It's a new avocado toast. It's the new, you know what I mean? It's that little catchphrase, and people just, they overuse it and misuse it so much that it's almost like they don't realize how to actually, like when it actually applies. So the saying that I'm referring to is to be gentle with ourselves. And I think there's definitely a time and a place where it absolutely makes sense, but people are misusing it like crazy because it's kind of like that spiritual ego. Like, let me take this little phrase that I've heard from my podcast and just use it in this situation, like where it doesn't, even really apply. Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah. And so I'm a big believer in being, so you say being gentle, I say being compassionate, right? We're talking about the same thing, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times when you experience imposter syndrome, we're not compassionate to ourselves because we really do believe that we're not the total expert. So I can't put that course out. So it's just, it's like you're dying away, you're withering on the vine because your talents, your skills, you're not putting them out there for other people to digest or consume because you're so consumed with, I'm a fake, I'm a fraud. Why would anyone buy my course, right? And so what happens is that's a lot of judgment that you place on yourself. Like, I'm not the expert, so I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve to sell the course, right? And so you're not just judgy in that area, you judge in other areas too. And so basically your filter by which you live your life is judgment. Right?
Yes.
So I'm either judging myself in any situation or I'm judging you. Right. And so what I would say in those situations is you definitely want to be compassionate. You want to be gentle with yourself, ease up on yourself a little bit more and get to the point where there's like, of course there's more experts than you. Of course. And there's going to be a higher expert than that expert. And there's going to be another expert higher than that. Right. And so what there is to realize is that we all deserve a space. We all have a space here. It's okay. Right. Because what really is at play is when you're able to let that go, like there's space for everyone. So you don't have to worry that you're not the main. Listen, there's a lot of breakthrough coaches. Got it. There's a lot of coaches that do imposter syndrome. Got it. But guess what? There's only one that's going to present the information the way I present it, the way Nando presents it, right?
Yes.
And so how I speak, how I do my hair, the clothes I wear, my background, everything attracts my tribe. And so when I'm able to be with that, I will know that you know, I will sell what there is for me to sell, and I won't sell what there isn't for me to not sell, right? So basically,
Yes.
like stepping in and owning my space and being okay with there's other coaches, there's other imposter syndrome experts out there. Got it. Beautiful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Compassion there. Yes. What we're talking about, right, is
Yeah.
we're a little bit, I'm not going to use the word entitled, but when we're avoiding responsibility, right?
Yes.
So I have a course that's coming up, right? I'll be, it's coming up on the 17th. It's called the Imposter Syndrome Smackdown session,
I love
right?
it.
I haven't written it yet. It's only a
Okay.
few days away. What is today? Today is
The
the
13th.
13th. It's coming up in a few. I haven't written the course yet, right? I'm going to write it tomorrow, I say to myself. And then when
Right.
tomorrow comes, I'm like, you know what? I've worked so hard.
Right.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to be gentle with myself. No, what I'm doing is I'm avoiding responsibility.
Yes.
These women are counting on me. They're
Right.
showing up. They've already paid their money. Are you kidding
Right.
me? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? No. Compassion and gentle. No. What there is to do is face the music and be like, you're responsible to these human beings that have put their credit card and bought the session from you already.
Right.
So set some time apart tomorrow and set a lot of time tomorrow, because you don't
Yes.
rush this, these women are coming to you for, to really discover imposter syndrome and the whole world of it, right? So you want to
Yes.
give them the best experience ever. And so that's one example, right? Where we'll
Yeah.
use, listen, I'm so tired. I've been doing all these clubhouse speech talks. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. I really
Right.
deserve. We're misusing it. And I love what you
Yes.
had said too. Do you want to tell your folks about, like how your take on this be gentle to
It's just, I mean, I can't remember exactly like the wording that I chose before, but I mean, it's a cop out. Like a lot of times it's just a cop out, because what I've realized in me procrastinating, that's actually the opposite of being gentle with myself. It's the complete opposite, because then at the last minute, I'm scrambling and I'm anxious and I'm freaking out and I'm like, oh my God, oh, okay. Like I can't have any noise. I can't have any interruptions. And I'm just like, what part of that was being gentle with myself? It wasn't. It wasn't. It's, and I think that when we misuse and we overuse, and then we bullshit ourselves into not realizing when we could be gentle with ourselves. Being
yeah
gentle with myself would actually be me like preparing to be done, say 5 days before, so that way I can just ease into it. I can be easy with it. Even like when I do my questions and everything for my podcast, I try and get those out, a good 3 or 4 days before, sometimes like right after I do like my intro call, because that last minute thing of scrambling and trying to like practice stuff as I'm putting on my makeup and, reading my questions, and it's not being gentle. It's complete lull. It's
yeah and you connected it to self-sabotage, which is exactly it, which is, the procrastination, the perfectionism, and then what it leads to, because of the perfectionism leads to, I say it starts, here's one scenario, right? There's a little bit of overthinking that happens. The
yes,
overthinking then leads to the procrastination, which then leads to, when it's finally time, show time, you're running around, and you're not being, at that point you're not being kind, because you're
no,
so busy, pooping on yourself,
yeah,
right? And then what ends up happening is that we don't always perform our best when we're under these conditions, and it's
right,
not sustainable. How long do you
right,
think that you'll be able, and this is why
yeah,
people stop doing the work that they do, right? And you'll see it. It's like they were once this, once they were heavy on YouTube, and then now they're this, and then, because it's like it just wasn't sustainable. And with this
yeah,
new thing, the new shiny object, they're like, okay, well, maybe that will work for me. And then this is where they, we're not being truthful to ourselves. It wasn't that YouTube didn't work out for you. It's just that you just didn't create a routine or
yes,
set yourself up for success. right? With the way you do it. But guess what? They're going to do the same thing now with Clubhouse, or they're going to do the same thing now. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
which I didn't realize this, but there's actually rooms on Clubhouse of how to deal with your Clubhouse addiction, you know?
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, because and I could see how it could happen, right? Like just room after room after room, but you got to listen, it can't just be one thing, you know?
Right.
Life is a balance. Life is trying to create that balance for yourself.
Yes.
Joy, work, money, happiness, love, relationships. So, you
Right.
know, when you create a world for yourself that's not sustainable in terms of like your flow, how you
Yeah.
do things, then this is when you start to experience then I'm a failure or burnout, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what leads
Oh,
to it.
yeah. I actually didn't even like really think about it like that until you phrased it that way. It is. It's still part of that cycle because
Yeah.
you're going, I can't do this. This is too hard. It's like, you know what? You wouldn't have to stay up until 3 a.m., like 3 nights in a row, had you have just allocated and managed your time better for the past 2 weeks. I have this quote says, like, it's okay to be gentle with yourself. It's okay to be gentle with yourself, but sometimes you need a swift kick in the ass, like, but be willing to do both.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's more loving to just say, no, turn off the damn TV. That is not that is not lacking in gentility in any way. You do not need to watch yet another, and talking to my past self here, like, you do not need to watch yet another episode of Grey's Anatomy. You've literally seen the whole series. You know exactly what's going to happen. This isn't bettering you. It's a great show, though, still. Like, it doesn't really get old.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a study that just came out that says that, and listen, yours is Grey's Anatomy. Do you want to hear what mine is?
What is it?
You're going to freak out. You're going to freak out. Dexter.
Oh, God, really?
It is. It is. It is. And so there's a study that came out that when people, not all, but when people rewatch series, the same ones over and over, like the Golden Girls, right?
Okay.
Over and over again, there's something that it calms our anxiety down because number one, these are such familiar people and familiar scenarios because we already know what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So
we do.
it takes the surprise out of it. Like, so there's no anxiety factor or anything because we already know it's going to. So it's like it calms our anxiety down, and it actually gives us like time to like it recoups our nervous system basically.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. That I didn't, but it makes sense because I know Tony Robbins like talks about a little bit how he's like, what did he say? It's one of his TED Talks that I've watched a million times. And he says, how many people here have watched, the same movie over and over again, he's like, get a fucking life. He's just like, you already, like, you watch it because you have this need for certainty. You already know it's going to happen because you've watched it before, but it gives you like that sense of certainty and, it's predictable. It keeps it, safe in your safe zone. So it makes sense how you name it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Right. Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting. I like that. That's so interesting. So why do you feel like it's so damn hard for people to just shake this syndrome? Like,
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. I think number one, it's because people don't eat. The reality is, not a lot of people even know what imposter syndrome is.
yeah.
We're still being educated on it. I get a lot of women that'll DM me from a Clubhouse room and say, "I never even heard of this until I heard you talking about it."
Okay.
What they know is the self-sabotage part, right? The
Yes.
procrastination, the perfectionism, because that's been out for a while, but they're not too sure what imposter syndrome is. So I think number one, we're not educated on it. Number two, it has such a horrible name that no one wants to like I have imposter syndrome,
Right.
It's like the syndrome part makes you believe that you have to take shots for it. The imposter part makes you believe that, like, am I openly just lying to people? Am I just like being a fake? And so I don't.
Got it.
I believe that the two doctors that named it, they might have been I assert that they were experiencing imposter syndrome themselves. Otherwise, they would have named it after themselves, you know, like the
Yeah.
Clance-Imes effect, right?
Yeah.
I would be, oh, I've experienced that, the Clance-Imes effect versus imposter syndrome, but it is what it is, right? So why
Right.
to shake? I think number one, people don't know about it. Number two, no, you resist the name once you do, and then number three, the advice that's given, it's like, how do I even put this? It's like the advice you get is like, oh, just don't think about it. Oh, don't,
Oh, right.
don't take things too personal. Or, you know, you're not a fraud. Here's the thing is, when you're experiencing it at a level 92,
Yeah.
there's nothing we can say to each other that's going to get me there. It's going to take months of work to
Right.
get through this, right? Depending on where you're at on the scale. Someone who's experiencing it at a 12, it's like, no, look, you know, you are the expert. You have a coaching practice and you've coached
Right.
over 3 million women. That, oh, okay, yeah, you know, you know, you are right. And then I go off to go make my next course, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's also, you know, at what level you're experiencing at, and then getting the
Yeah.
right help for that.
Definitely. I love that. That makes a lot of sense because, yeah, it's just you have to like any type of treatment, you have to customize it for you at the level of that you're experiencing it on, because it can manifest itself in so many different little ways that you wouldn't even necessarily think to, you know, even address it. And I think also when we look at I feel like we compare ourselves a lot to other people. So in doing that, sometimes we miss, you know, that like how it can like how it can manifest in us. Because we'll say like, well, oh no, like she's so extreme, like anxiety. I'll take anxiety as an example. You know, we see someone who's like freaking out, anxious all the time, who's like on a 9 on a scale of like 1 to 10 all the time. But if we're at maybe a 7 or a 7.5, but it only shows up for us, say like if we're working on a project or something like that, we'll go, oh, well, I don't have anxiety. That's anxiety. So I feel like it's kind of the same thing with that, you know?
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
totally.
we're self-diagnosing, which is I mean, that's the thing to do, but
Yeah.
it's the comparison part that really, you know, doesn't really do us justice.
Yeah, definitely. So what are like more healthy ways like people can go about, you know, dealing with imposter syndrome? Because we already know that dismissing it and pretending like it's not there and, you know, that
Yeah.
doesn't really work. So what are some ways that people can kind of start to address this stuff?
Well, first, you know, because the study that was done in 1978, it was only specifically done with women.
Okay.
There's a stigma,
Mm.
and you know where I'm going with it. There's a stigma
Yeah,
that women are the only ones that deal with this, that
right.
experience imposter syndrome. And there's been a lot of research now leading up to 2021 that tells us no, we're pretty much at equal now. But the
Yeah.
one thing that hasn't budged is women are always more open to talk about it versus,
Yes.
right? The men won't talk about it because that's their image, that's their persona, right? So I would
Another
say,
imposter like manifestation of just like, no, that's not who I am. I'm this strong person that never has to deal with anything. Yeah.
yeah. And so I would say the number one thing to start doing is you know, first thing is own it, because there's nothing wrong with having it. You just experience it. You're not imposter syndrome. You don't have imposter syndrome. You experience imposter syndrome, just like you
Yes.
experience a headache, or you experience, like if you twist your ankle, it's an
Yes.
experience, right? You're not the twisted ankle.
Mm,
So, you know,
I
that's
love
number
that.
one.
Yeah.
Number two is, if you're able to own it, number two is then you're able to talk about it. And so when you
Yes.
start sharing your experiences, it lifts the burden. It's not so
Yeah.
heavy, right? That's number two. And number three, I would say is, and this is something that I tell my clients, is everyone needs CPR. Everyone needs CPR. And what I mean by that is you have a team of 3 people. The C is someone who cheers you. The P is someone who pushes you, and the R is someone who keeps it real. You need CPR,
Ooh.
okay? So someone who cheers you, someone who pushes you, and someone who keeps it real. So anytime you're experiencing something like, oh my God, I just launched my course and only 2 people signed up, call your CPR team. The cheerleader is going to say something like, oh my God, you launched a course? That's amazing. You know how many people haven't launched their course? And then you call your pusher. Okay, great. You got 2. Okay, what are you going to do to make it 5? All right. What's your plan? Are you tweeting? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Clubhouse? Right. And then the keep it real person is going to say, hold on, take a step back. I want you to know, let's take a look. Where did you start with last year?
Yes.
You had no clients. You had no personal brand. Look where you are now. So much so that you had 2 people that signed up for your course already. So everyone needs a CPR team.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. That's great. Oh, because we have to have that support system. I feel like that's a big one for people, is to really have that support system, and then to, when we can, be that support system too.
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh.
That's what you just said there is super important, right?
Yeah.
Don't just go and grab a CPR, be someone's CPR team. You either be, and yourself. So, and you can be on multiple people's CPR team, and you can have multiple CPR teams, right?
Yes, right.
So it's not just a 3-person situation, but already having that, imposter syndrome, a lot of folks, it turns them into that lone wolf. We play alone, right? So by having the CPR team, you're already stepping into something bigger than yourself, which is allowing yourself to receive contribution and to receive support, which a lot of us have an aversion to, because we see it as weakness. We see it as, oh, I can't do this alone, so I need help. No, like, why would you ever, like, I'm such the opposite of that. I can't even give you an example of what it's like to not get support, or what it's like to, but that's how I used to live my life. I had to be the blogger, I had to be the editor, I had to do the video, I had to record the video, I had to edit the video, I had to post the video, I had to, promote the video. Like, everything was me. And a lot of us that are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we wear that hat, and then that's when burnout comes, right? It's not sustainable because burnout comes in. So what you want to do is you want to start creating teams and teamwork in order to have your business flourish, right? So if you look at a successful business, there's people behind it. There's lots of people behind it,
Yeah. Oh, that was good. I like that. That's definitely a huge thing for people to really, I think, take away from this is that, and I really appreciate you naming that you are not imposter syndrome, just like you're not like a broken ankle, or you're not, a headache. It's something you experience, and just like realizing that you experience it helps you talk yourself through that process of, okay, how can I move through this experience and start to, create situations where I can build confidence and start to feel worthy and start to feel like I belong in the room that I'm in, or the rooms that I choose to be in. That's really good. Oh, I love that. So, okay. So before I ask my last question, where can everybody find you online?
Great. Anywhere Nandoism. So Instagram, Nandoism, Twitter, Nandoism, Facebook, Nandoism, Clubhouse, Nandoism, and also my website, nandoism.com. Right?
Okay.
That's where everyone can find me. And I'm always, I'm always the one with the loud mouth, loud voice, giving entrepreneurs tips on how to move the needle in their business forward, or helping women on how to overcome and smash and conquer their imposter syndrome.
Okay, very cool. Awesome. So for my last question, Nando, what keeps you inspired?
Ooh, I love that. I would have to say, can I move my camera?
Yeah.
So do you see her on the couch right over there?
Is that his little baby?
That's the little baby. And my husband's going to kill me because I just shined a light on like our hot mess living room right there.
All good. I'm not going to show you what's going on behind the scenes over here. So all good.
She and my husband really do keep me inspired because, we're about to celebrate 11 years together next week, my husband and
Oh,
I.
that's so awesome.
And Leona came into our lives the year we got married, which was 2014, right? She came 2 months later. And so it's been the three of us for 7 years. And it's just like, I can't imagine my life without her or him. And
Yeah.
so they're the ones that keep me together, because Leona has taught, anyone who's a doggy owner discovers the true meaning of unconditional love,
Yes.
because there's nothing they can do that has you like take the love away. And
Right.
you saw her, she's just napping. She does nothing for us. She does nothing. Yet we can't wait to scoop her up and love
Yeah.
her. And she wants none of it, right? She's not the huggable, lovable, who's like always by her side. No, she's on her own. Oh, it's super independent. And then
Okay.
my husband is also an entrepreneur, and so he inspires me because he works double hard, he works triple hard to get his clients to maintain the level of success that he has. And I always, we talk about comparison, and I try not to compare myself, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god, he'll stay up till 2 in the morning, 3, editing photos, making sure that the clients get them and
Oh,
stuff like
wow.
that. And so they keep me motivated, and they keep me super inspired, to just keep going. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's so cute. I love it. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, the unconditional love thing, because I have two kitties and they're my
Yeah.
little babies. They're my little babies, my little boy, my little girl, and they're just such a joy, you know? And they really do open your heart so much and just keep it open.
100%, right? And it's not like they don't wash dishes for you. They
Nope.
don't, do your laundry. They
Nope.
just do their thing, and you're just like, oh my god, they're
I
so.
love you. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I know. It's like I scoop your poop and, like go and stand in line at Petco to like get your food, and you could care less like
Care
what
less.
mommy went through like to do all of this, like your expensive vet bills and your pet insurance, like all of it. So I totally understand. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. This has been really, like, it's been a lot of fun. I can't wait. I feel like at one point, I think we could do like a live together. I would love to do a live.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep.
because your energy is just like really great. So, guys, make sure you check out Nando on his social media pages and website. And he's always doing these amazing classes, workshops, what have you. So, definitely follow his content because he's always producing amazing content. And until next time, you guys, as always, stay inspired.
Bye.